This is my almost 8-year-old iPad, and somehow I still rely on it for a lot of the creative work behind these videos. I use it for thumbnails, animations, and even writing scripts like this one. But lately it's been struggling, getting hot, slowing down, crashing when I push it too far. So before replacing it, I asked myself, what's actually slowing me down and can I fix it? Hi, welcome to Made by Jade. In this video I'll show you how I built something I've needed for a long time, a drawing stand for my iPad, but not a standard stand. This one has active cooling, custom 3D printed parts, and even a USB-C hub underneath, so I can plug in power, HDMI, external drives, SD cards, all that while keeping my iPad cool during long drawing sessions. It started as a quick sketch and slowly turned into one of my most polished DIYs so far. Let me show you how I built it. I use the iPad a lot, from very light tasks like watching videos to a bit more demanding ones like drawing with multiple layers or making small animations. But last summer it started acting out, crashing the app when using too many layers and getting a bit too warm. Yeah, the iPad is getting a bit old and probably has seen better days. It has more than 7 years of daily use, but other than these small annoyances, it still works great. So instead of replacing it, I decided to improve the setup around it. The easel or stand I use at my desk is a very basic one, and its sole purpose is to angle the iPad in a more comfortable way. That's it. I think we can improve a lot from here. Taking some inspiration from the easel I use from my analog drawings, also from commercially available ones, I really like the wooden top with a cutout for the iPad. Just to change things up and break from 3D printing everything, which was my initial idea. I started sketching out the ideas and the goals were simple: better ergonomics, a clean drawing surface that feels like a real board, active cooling, and why not add an USB-C hub that can power both the iPad and the fan. I used OnShape to get a better sense of the dimensions I'd need. Luckily, I was able to find a 3D model for the iPad, which saved me a lot of time, and I started designing around it. For reference, the drawing board I use is 50 by 36 centimeters, and this was more or less what I was going for. Since the wooden board would have a cutout for the iPad, I had two options: make it a perfect fit with a little room for the buttons and pencil, or leave a bigger tolerance. I went with the second option, slightly larger cutouts, and design a 3D printed interface to hold the iPad instead. This makes the whole setup more flexible. Later on, if or when I upgrade the iPad, I can just redesign and reprint that one part and keep everything else as is. Of course, assuming I'll keep the 11-inch or smaller form factor. I also plan to embed magnets in this interface piece. Since the magnet placement can change between iPad generations, this modular approach made even more sense. Unfortunately, the magnets took way too long to arrive, so I moved on without them for now. Made a first test print to check if the iPad fits nicely or if I needed to adjust anything. And yeah, I needed to adjust something. In this test print, I also made a cutout for the fan and later on used it to build a prototype board. Having the iPad mount kinda sorted out, I moved to figure out how to secure the fan. I got this USB fan that has a switch with multiple resistors to change the fan speed. The design had several iterations. I wasn't sure what was best, but this is how it turned out. The interface for the iPad has a bigger cutout for the fan, and in the new part, the fan is screwed with the provided screws and it fits snugly with everything. Then came my biggest challenge of the design. How do I design the legs for it? Once again, several iterations. My initial idea was to design something similar to that easel, with adjustable angle for different situations. But honestly, I couldn't figure out how to fit it in my design. Not so much because of the fan, but because of the cable going to the iPad. It comes out to the side and I wasn't able to design a good solution that wouldn't compromise the stability of it. My compromise, while keeping the hub functionality, was to design two folding legs at the top of the board. It will keep the iPad at a fixed angle, but it's still better than what I had. This is one of the things I would like to improve in the future, so if you have any suggestions, they are more than welcome. The first prototype is nothing fancy, just a K-line foam board big enough for this test. The fan screwed to the board and the 3D printed parts secured with double-sided tape. And just one leg. I know this looks kind of Frankensteinish, but it actually works surprisingly well. I was able to check the angles of everything and adjust it accordingly. But of course I couldn't leave it like this. It needed to be sturdier, cleaner and more functional. For the final surface, I wanted something way nicer than K-line, of course. I found a bamboo kitchen cutting board. Yeah, I know, but it was the perfect size and looked and felt really great, almost like a traditional artist's drawing board. The cutouts, well, I did it by hand, very carefully, and who am I kidding? It would be way too difficult for me to do these precise cuts. Maybe one day I'll be more comfortable with a router. Luckily, I have a friend that works with and builds CNCs, and he helped me out in this part. This instantly made the whole project look 10 times more premium. I applied a heavy-duty oil-based finish to seal and protect the board. For this project, I got this USB-C hub. The build quality seems to be good. It has 2 USB-A, 1 USB-C, 1 HDMI port, an SD card and micro SD card reader, and a USB-C power delivery port. I chose these over others because the ports were all on the same side, except for the SD card reader, and because I use SD cards all the time, either for cameras, Raspberry Pi projects, and my computer does not have an SD card reader. If this project completely failed, at least I could use the hub for the computer. But mainly I got it because it was on sale on Amazon. To fit nicely with the rest of the design, I designed a small enclosure for the hub to sit behind the board, and everything looked more put together. With the board finished and the 3D parts printed, it was time for assembly. A bit of a detour to shorten the USB cable for the fan. So, how well does it work? Honestly, better than I expected. The fan keeps the back of the iPad way cooler, even during long drawing sessions. And ergonomically is a huge difference. My posture is way better. I have enough space to rest my hands and it feels closer to drawing on paper without feeling the edges of the tablet. Another addition to this setup is this tiny remote. I programmed the most important shortcuts to Procreate, the app that I use to draw on the iPad, and it speeds up the process a lot. This was such a fun project. It started out as a quick sketch and became the nicest thing I've ever built for my iPad. If you want the files, let me know in the comments and I might upload them if they are useful to someone. Thank you so much for watching and let me know what you think of this project. Any suggestions for improvements are always very welcome. And consider subscribing for more DIY projects. Until next time, bye!